Good evening, everyone. This is Mark from Forward Fooding, and today for our next webinar, we have the pleasure to host Tarryn Gorre from Kafoodle. Hi, Tarryn. How are you?
Very well, thanks. And yourself, Max?
Very well, thank you. So I'm the CEO of Forward Fooding. For those who don't know us, we are a collaborative platform for the food and drinks industry, and more specifically on food tech. Essentially, what we do are three things. One is about food tech data and insights. So we have developed a data intelligence platform called the Food Tech Data Navigator that we provide to investors, startups, corporates, accelerators, and other relevant stakeholders from the industry. We do a lot of consulting work for corporate clients of the food industry with the ultimate goal of create collaborations between startups and corporates. And the last bit of our kind of activities is really to help startups, impactful startups in any way we can within the sector, organizing these kind of webinars, for example, or competitions like the Food Tech 500 that Kafoodle is one of the winners. So Tarryn, thanks for being with us today. So Kafoodle is a menu management and communication software for commercial kitchens that allows, amongst many other things, to manage nutrition and allergen requirements. So just to start with, we'd love to hear more about what Kafoodle is doing exactly, what is it about. But before you get into that, we'd love to hear more about your story, your background as the CEO and co-founder, and what was your journey until you arrived today on this call together?
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining this and wanting to come and hear me talk. I hope I don't let you down. So as Max mentioned, I'm Tarryn, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kafoodle, which is a food tech company. I myself have a long history in hospitality. So I started in commercial kitchens when I was 17. And ended up staying in hospitality throughout doing my university degree, and then was lucky enough to move from my hometown of Cape Town across to London and work with some celebrity chefs and some really good restaurant groups, mainly in the kind of business M&A space. So a lot of mergers and acquisitions and a lot of kind of looking at how to make hospitality businesses more efficient, scale them, and grow them, mainly from a kind of a marketing and management perspective. So I was doing that for a couple of years, and then basically 14 years actually. And then towards the end of that, decided to set up Kafoodle with my co-founder. So I think the way we got here today was a lot of frustration with the tech that I was trying to use in different environments. I know there are other techs on the market, but at the time, I had just bought myself a pub in Exmouth Market before Exmouth Market was cool. For those of you who know London, and it's called the Bowler. It's still there today. Ironically, it's still empty. So I obviously didn't do a very good job. But actually, I was trying to build an affordable solution that we could use to operate our business, and there wasn't anything that I felt was fit for me as a business at the time. And actually got chatting to one of my friends, who is Kim, who ended up being my co-founder. And she kind of challenged me to try and build it. And for someone who hates an Excel spreadsheet, it was pretty daunting. But I suppose we're still here almost 6 years later. And that's kind of how Kafoodle was born. Her husband has a severe food allergy, which obviously played a big part in the core roots of Kafoodle, which is all around food safety.
Fantastic. Well, nice, great story. And can you tell me a bit more about what Kafoodle does exactly?
So we like to think of ourselves as an end-to-end kitchen management system. So for those of you obviously in commercial kitchens, we do everything from your stock, your ordering, we take in your ingredients, and we're then able to analyze that. So you would type up a recipe into our software, and we'll generate the allergens, the nutrition, the may contains, as well as the cost of that dish, and then you're able to communicate it out. So in the current climate, that could be via Deliveroo, via Just Eat, or through our own click and collect platform, or your own website, or one of our competitors. But what we try and do is manage the commercial aspect of a kitchen when it comes to ingredients data and use of that information throughout its journey. So we call it, it's basically a parsnip to plate model.
Okay. And what would you say are the main problems you're solving for your customers?
It completely varies. So we're lucky enough to work across a variety of sectors, which I think gives us intel into how different people use our software. And for those of you who do run tech companies, I'm sure every user uses your software in a different way, or in a way you actually never built it to be used, if I'm honest. So, I mean, we have some customers in the care sector that are obviously very concerned about nutrition and the aging population and making sure they're fed correctly. Someone in schools will buy us because they have 800 students, and out of those 800 students, there'll be over 100 different dietary requirements because of allergens or religion or anything. So they will have to find out a way to manage that information, but then also easily communicate it to parents and children that is user-friendly. And then, to be honest with you, a lot of people use us for the cost savings. So you know, a lot of people do care about nutrition, and obviously allergens are a legal requirement, so we fit in the compliance software space. But it's also the fact that once you start to analyze everything you're using in a kitchen, you can hopefully make some cost savings and reduce the manual labor around that.
Okay. And you, so from what you just said, you look at very different sectors. So you work with catering, with schools, care homes. Can you tell us a bit more about your business model? Like how does the business model work currently?
So we're basically a licensing, a subscription. We're a SaaS business. So we charge a monthly or annual licensing fee to businesses, and we can then add on services. So we've productized our services. So with a lot of people who are time poor, we're able to fully set them up, suggest menu differences, suggest meal plans, suggest even procurement companies if it's needed, and do all of their kind of recipes and data for them. And for other companies, we're literally just a plug and play where they go online, buy the software, and just use it to allow people to order food in the current market. But we work as a SaaS company with the annual or monthly licensing fee.
Okay. And does your solution integrate with existing tools, or is it complete like set apart from other solutions that these restaurants might be using?
So we are 100% up for collaboration. And we do integrate with certain systems. We obviously we don't integrate, with every single point of sale on the market, but something that we would obviously integrate with is someone's point of sale. So you can have accurate tracking, pricing can stay consistent, the same with your procurement system. So we have an open API. So ideally we want to make it, our job as a company is to streamline the kitchen process. So we want to be as seamless and as integrated as possible.
Yeah, I guess that's the need today, right? And just can you deep dive a little bit more? I'm sorry, we're just really trying to help people understand exactly what you're doing, but to give us a bit more background about each of the different products that you have. So you have the pre-order and pay, the meal planning tool. I've seen that you're just about to launch like a new stock and ordering tool. Can you just deep dive a bit more about these different functionalities that you have, and what was the reasoning as well when launching all of these different products?
Yes, of course. So I suppose, as I'm sure most of you know, in its core, every commercial kitchen has similar challenges. However, your journey to those challenges might be slightly different. So we have what we consider one platform and one solution with, as Max has mentioned, multiple features. So for instance, a street food vendor who has 5 dishes, they might literally just want to use us to communicate their allergens to diners, and in the current market to click and collect. That's what we call an essential product. It's essential for businesses, and it's very easy to use, and you can get set up in a matter of hours. We then have our full kind of kitchen product, which is much more detailed. So it's your full recipe analysis, allergens, nutrition, costing, recipe cards, HACCPs, methods, audit trails. So it's for all businesses, but maybe someone who isn't, for instance, as I said, a street food truck serving fish tacos. You're probably pretty sure that your tacos sometimes contain gluten or no gluten and fish, so you might not need the full compliance system. And then if people kind of upgrade from that, they normally go to kitchens. So it's more of a journey that businesses go on as you fulfill their needs. And then we have other things that are relevant to different sectors. So for instance, something like meal planning, which I don't know for how many of you are avid cooks at home, but it is literally, I want to buy all of these ingredients and this is my meal plan for the week. Obviously in the care sector, they kind of run 28-day meal plans, and that's quite laborsome if you're on a Excel document. So meal planning is very much targeted for our school, hospital, and care sector, because it just helps them create what we would call a meal plan easier. Whereas a restaurant would probably find our click and collect more valuable. So they have the pre-order and pay functionality. And then, and the way we build products is we look at the sectors we work in. We are lucky now to have enough clients. We show them our roadmap on a quarterly basis, what we're thinking of building, what priority we're building it in, and we take their feedback. So sometimes they might just want us to change something in the existing software, and we'll go away and iterate that. And sometimes, like our new product that's coming out with stock and ordering, it's just a demand from our clients that, you know, we house all the ingredients, we do all the meal plans, and actually it would be really amazing if you could order your stock straight from a recipe instead of having to add all your ingredients. And I think it's also just the simplicity of it. I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of technology out in the market. It's just for our clients, sometimes it's a fine line for us because we build core systems. So we don't build stuff bespoke. Basically, if 50% of our clients want us to build something, we will build it free of charge and then sell it back to them. So we have to make sure that whatever we build is usable across all the sectors. But I think that's where it's really interesting when people talk about our company. We have single consumer. Everyone eats, they just eat in different environments, and every commercial kitchen has the same pain points, and every consumer has similar demands. And I think we've just, we only got funding, as you guys will know, maybe in February. So I think we're now just trying to solidify our core offerings and all the different products around that. But we take a lot of intel from clients, and we're very open about our roadmap and what we're doing.
And I think that's the right way to go for sure. Taking feedback is always is gold. And have you ever considered going into B2C somehow, leveraging some of your existing technologies in the B2C sector? Or...
I'll let you know. We don't. I mean, we're a B2B company. I think the B2C space is always tempting. It feels like a logical step for us. However, I think the B2B market for us is more than big enough for the next few years at least.
Yeah, no, for sure. Better to have a straight focus at the beginning. And I saw on your website, like you have this new like stock and ordering feature that you're going to be releasing soon. Can you tell us a bit more about that specific one? And I would assume that the main goal for this one is to help commercial kitchens manage their food waste. Like, how big of an issue is that for commercial kitchens in general?
I mean, it's a big one. I don't know where everyone's dialing in from, but in Scotland, it's an element of the law. I feel like it's going to be more of a law in London moving forward. I think as commercial kitchens have to save costs and actually look at where their money is going, I think food waste is quite a big thing. So I think it is, we don't have a full food waste system. Our stock and ordering is more about giving you the correct data so that you can forecast your food better and maybe order more cost affordable ingredients for certain recipes and see what's out in the market. But I think, you know, moving forward, plate waste as well as kind of food waste will definitely be a priority, and we will integrate with systems that are experts in food waste. Our stock and ordering is more about kind of streamlining your holding stock and using it in the best way for the company.
Great. And I know it's hard not to talk about the COVID situation these days. You see, like with new health and safety kind of regulation, we see a lot of like food businesses having to adopt like a fully no contact kind of like consumer interaction. So I guess as you were mentioning before, as we were chatting, that your new like click and collect service was like just right in time. Can you talk us a bit more through that exactly, and see if you saw some kind of like a real peak during that period?
Yeah, so I suppose we started to build a click and collect or pre-order and pay application a couple of months ago. So we were really lucky in the fact that we started building it quite far before coronavirus, because we had a lot of contract caterer clients really need that, you know, that I'm on my way to the office, I'm going to pre-order my coffee for 9 a.m. so I don't have to stand in the queue when I get to the office, collect it and go up to my desk. So we'd actually started, we had that product in the market in March, just kind of not in the coronavirus frame. So I suppose I'm really lucky where I have a phenomenally strong team, and we were quite easily able to kind of repackage that and market it as this click and collect product in line with the food safety and coronavirus. So yes, I mean, to be completely honest with you, I think in the UK especially, everyone was under government order to close. I say everyone in the restaurant sector and pub sector. We're very lucky in quite a lot of our clients are healthcare, so hospitals and care homes stayed open. But for the first few months, I think there was just genuine fear. No one knew whether they could operate a takeaway, couldn't operate a takeaway, what the government's instruction was. So the first kind of 6 weeks of that period, it also just felt ethically odd that we couldn't give the software away for free because of our commercial reasons. And so many businesses were struggling. So I think we also waited to see how we could support our existing clients to stay open, to stay operating, instead of trying to go and find new clients that would be quite cash poor at that time. And then now as that has changed and we've had a lot, and we've started to market it, and we've had a lot more inquiries of people who really do see the advantage in doing a takeaway or click and collect, and are keen to get open as soon as possible. So there's definitely an influx in inquiries. And I don't really believe in competitors. So there's quite a lot of people in the click and collect space that are competitors that I do chat to. And just in general, it's phenomenal the amount of inquiries and how busy they've been in helping businesses get up and running, because it does seem like everyone is going to do it. I think personally, we will do it, and we do it, and it's one of our products, but I'm interested to see what the future evolves to be, because I think there's quite a lot of a knee-jerk reaction now as to just open as quick as possible. And we have to stay true to the fact that we are a compliance software.
Yeah, okay. And as a business, like how were you overall affected by the whole crisis? Like, did you actually see kind of like more traction as restaurants were closing and restaurants and commercial kitchens were closing? I would tend to think that maybe it's because from someone I know that's what was happening in the tourism industry, because everything was closed, so people actually had more time to look into other tech solutions that they were not even considering before. Did you actually got more attention from potential clients?
I feel like I'm supposed to say yes, but actually most people were furloughed. So we had a lot of unofficial inquiries where people would phone us or email us and go, listen, I'm furloughed, but can you have an unofficial conversation with me that if I had to use the software in X, Y, and Z, would it work? But especially in the UK, I think when the government announced the furlough scheme, any restaurant that wasn't operating, the chefs legally weren't allowed to use the system. If they were furloughed, they're legally not allowed to log in. They're not allowed to be looking at other software solutions. There's quite a, so there are a lot of businesses that stayed open, or owners. So what was really interesting for me is I had a lot of other founders phoning me up saying, hey, I now have the space. Can you tell me a bit more about Kafoodle? But a lot of our existing clients had furloughed quite a lot of their chefs. So although we just left the licenses there for them, there was kind of that unofficial rule where they would sometimes pay with the software, but in theory they had, the furlough schemes here were quite good. So I think a lot of people did just furlough most of their staff because they just weren't making money.
Fair enough. And what would you think now that like times are like going slowly back to normal, but it would definitely never be, exactly the same. But what would you say are the biggest challenge ahead for your clients overall?
So our clients overall, I think, will be operating in the new space. So I mean, nothing to do with tech, if I'm honest. I think it'll be, how do you get your staff to come back to work and feel safe? How do your customers feel safe? How do you put up screens? And I mean, I saw someone launch a tray that has a ruler on it. So it makes sure that you put down someone's food 2 meters away from them, and then they walk around and get it. I couldn't imagine running a pub where I can't be 2 meters away from someone having a pint at the bar and a chat with them. So, I mean, hospitality is social, food is social. It's human nature to want to engage and talk to someone, especially when it comes to food. It's a cultural thing. So I think bridging that gap, I think, will be quite hard for a lot of our customers. And I think, putting up the Perspex screens everywhere. And I mean, coming from a commercial kitchen, I don't know how I would have coped having to keep 2 meters away from all the other staff members. I've never worked in a kitchen big enough to do that, if I'm honest, and I've worked in some big kitchens. So I think that will be an issue, and capacity will be an issue. I think a bigger challenge around food tech, and where I think food tech will hopefully do some amazing things this year, is food security. So I think one of the things that has, to be honest with you, not a lot to do with Kafoodle, but just a lot to do with my passion, is how are we going to get food to the more vulnerable, and how are we going to go back to creating food security for a lot of people who will be isolating or unable to have access to food. I mean, here we've had a huge ruling on the school food meals, which is just phenomenal. But I think food security is probably one of our biggest challenges as food businesses.
And on that specifically, on food security, like, do you have any sort of like impactful technologies in mind, impactful startups that you think really going to have a huge impact?
I haven't actually seen any. There are a few around the logistics space that I think are interesting. I don't think it'll be one company. I can't wait until 19 of us get together and solve the problem, because I think we're talking about the huge movement of data, human data, food data, road data, logistics, sustainability, dietary preferences, medical needs. I think it's a massive piece that I think with the right cohort, I think it could be quite incredible at what the future of food could look like if we all got together and worked collaboratively.
For sure, big fan on the collaboration side of things as well. And we see a lot of like new companies emerging on that, specifically on the traceability elements of it. Another trend that we see, aside from traceability of products and transparency, is about personalized nutrition. And a few years ago, that was, I think, probably just kind of a marketing gimmick or a buzzword, but now we see like a real trend going on, and the need also for solutions like yours to identify allergens and make specific recommendations for consumers. Like, how do you think that sort of like switch happened? Like, what do you think happened that it became from a buzzword to an actual need, an actual trend?
I always get told that I answer this question incorrectly. So I think personalized nutrition means very different things to very different people. And I think it's still kind of like food tech. It's all encompassing. Personalized nutrition could be anything from the way I make my smoothie to what my gut microbiome says about me. I think it's become more prevalent, and there's a lot of precision nutrition coming out of the US. And that is because there are actually now founded scientific studies that prove that personalizing your food can have a huge impact on your health. And actually, there was a study released yesterday that proves even identical twins won't have the same gut microbiome, and one of them could react very differently to a certain diet than another. And I think people are becoming more aware of, they're not scared of getting old, they're scared of getting sick. So if they can stay healthy for as long as possible, and it's now proven that the correct diet, whatever that may be to you, helps you age better, I think it's so much more than a buzzword. It's becoming a way of life. That said, I think there is a limit. And I think in our lifetime, there will still be the choice as to how far you want to take it. So we as a company and as an ex-restaurant owner, we try and offer personalized nutrition to the consumer so they feel that it's personal and they enjoy their meal, but without adding the headache to the chef. So it is unrealistic, for instance, in a care home, for a chef to be making 40 different meals because he has 40 different gut microbiomes and they have to eat for, it's just, your question a little while back was about food waste, right? Like, how do you do that with food waste? Even as a family of 4, how do you cook 4 different meals every day? So I'm not sure how practical it is in the bigger commercial landscape. And I'm scared that the more we push it, we risk the next study coming out that we should just pop 3 tablets a day rather than 3 meals.
Okay, makes sense. And overall, like, what would you say? Because you mentioned before that the main challenge ahead was more about social distancing, so it has nothing to do with tech. But overall, like, what do you think the role of technology will play in the future of like commercial kitchen? Do you see it like indissociable from the future of commercial kitchens, technology in general?
So I think with social distancing, I think we've got a huge part to play in the fact that with tech, I think the pre-order and pay solutions and the click and collect that are out there, I think they're definitely the software of 2020. I think, as I said, yes, the 2 meter part's got nothing to do with tech, but if you have your orders 4 hours in advance or 24 hours in advance, you can plan your kitchen out that you have chefs in each workstation and they're each cooking X amount of the meals or the one ingredient that's needed for all of the meals. So I think tech will play a huge part in making business processes more efficient and it easier for restaurants to operate with social distancing. I also think that it will give consumers comfort. I think it is I mean, we all go to the extreme of, cooking for 400 people in a kitchen with 4 chefs because they've got to be 2 meters apart. That's probably not going to happen in the near future, but it's the simplicity of being able to, I hope, go to my local pub on the 4th of July, sit in the beer garden and order a pint to my table without having to interact with someone immediately. It means that those businesses can open. And all I hope is that we go back to hospitality as we all know it eventually, and that all tech does is keep that peace of mind. So why wouldn't I still order my pint through an app or through a technology? But then when the waiter comes, I can have a chat and I can still sit at the bar and have a chat, but I might just use technology to order it because it's just easier at the time. So I think moving forward, I think we've got to think about the best use of the applications we're doing. How do they improve our customer experience? How do they improve our food safety? How do they make us more efficient and help us make more money? Because, a lot of businesses are going to have a lot of lost earnings they need to make up. And I think we've got to just be thinking about how can these platforms help us, not just now, but moving forward. What technology do I want to have in my restaurant that just makes it easier for me to operate?
Okay. Great. I have one more question before I'll leave it to the floor, if we can call it a floor, digital floor, let's say. And you can start asking your questions in the chat box in the meantime. I wanted to close this with more like a personal question. Like you mentioned, you had your background in M&A. I assume this probably helped you massively when launching your company. But do you have like one specific piece of like practical advice that you could give to someone starting their own entrepreneurial journey, and if you could tell us a bit more as well on a personal point of view, more about your biggest learnings, highest lower spont and highest spont, let's say, and some other advice that you could give to our founders out there now listening.
So I suppose if you're starting out in your journey, this is probably cliched, but I would read a lot, and I would, there are places like Forward Fooding and other places where you can meet founders from a variety of sector, but people who are doing it. I think one of my biggest learnings is educate yourself, know what you're getting in for, be really clear what you're getting in for, because it can be tough and it can be lonely. It can also be very worth it. And I think how you approach your problem solving and your solutionizing of what you want to do in this space and who you surround yourself with is really important. So I think if you're starting out, I would start to surround yourself with people who can guide you and you can give you an honest taste of what it's actually like and feedback, I suppose. And I think that's probably one of my biggest learnings is I must admit, I just wanted to build something. When I got pulled into it, it was like, oh my God, you're a tech startup in Silicon Roundabout, because our office is on the Old Street. And there was this huge hype around tech startups. And food tech wasn't a thing. So it was tech startups. And everyone, all the VCs, and there was just this, oh, you kind of make millions and it's all about the money. And I just think you need to remember what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it and stay true to that and stay true to yourself. And stay focused. So I think we've pivoted as a company, don't get me wrong, but I think the food landscape for us looking at entering a food tech business or just the food landscape is huge. So I think collaboration is key, but you also need to stay quite focused on what problem you're solving and how you plan to do it. Because it's so easy for people to go, have you thought about this? Or don't you want to do this? Or why aren't you doing this? And it's quite easy to get caught up in that, and you will get lost just because food is a big sphere and there are a lot of problems that need solving in that landscape.
Yeah, fully agree on that. I think no one knows better than you, as a business founder, as a business owner, what's the right direction to take. So, have you ever taken part in any acceleration programs in the past, or?
Yes, I have. We're actually on a phenomenal one at the moment, a social impact one. So for me, as I said, I admit I got caught up. We kind of pivoted. I had a disconnect with my values, and we're now with a bunch of social entrepreneurs really doing an accelerator through Thrive, for those of you who do that stuff. And it's great. It's social impact, and it's really good. And we also did a health accelerator right at the beginning.
Thank you everyone for joining. Tarryn, thank you very much. It was a great chat. We enjoyed it. And everyone, the recording will be available online in the coming days, and hopefully, so you have a lot of nice comments coming in, people thanking you. I think it was very valuable overall. And yeah, hopefully we go back to doing live events pretty soon. Let's hope.
Great. Well, thank you for having me and inviting me on, Max. And yeah, I hope to see you guys all soon.
Thank you again. Bye everyone. Bye, Tarryn.
Bye. Have a good evening.